Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Brought to you by Flamethrowers Are Us Landscaping. Scientists have observed that when an erupting volcano completely eviscerates the plant life below, foliage eventually grows back, more lush than ever. This is the animating principle of our landscaping company. At Flamethrowers Are Us Landscaping, we guarantee that at some point after we are long gone, your yard is going to look fabulous. Flamethrowers Are Us Landscaping. Just imagine what we can do to your property.
Allan, how do we get those guys to come into the show, man? That is the attitude we need here on Tool Talk.
Positive and uplifting.
I think they're the ones that wreck the system temporarily, though.
Yeah, I think they sabotage the board. Anyway, welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And that haggard individual back there is Max, the producer. Don't worry, Max. We'll get things fixed up. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and join the action over there. Well, Allan, there's still a little bit of fallout from the the storms of 2 weeks ago. I guess that's when this was. So
February 3rd.
A little bit. We're gonna circle back on that just slightly. We're not gonna dwell on that because, I mean, let's face it, we pounded that subject home pretty thoroughly a couple of weeks ago.
It has a second chapter.
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna We're gonna close the first chapter and just
but there's a
touch
chapter
on the
2
second.
we need to talk about.
Yeah. We've got a 30 years of stupid that I didn't warn you about this, Allan, because I often like to get your hot take, and it's just reinforcing why I sort of hate nail guns.
That's a fun preface.
Yeah. In science, Allan, you've got the science of making plywood, which is not so straightforward as people might think.
It is very fascinating.
And it explains why it's a rugged and well-made, building product, basically. So another one, Allan, I had a close encounter with a squirrel this week. Very close. Within a little too close for comfort. And I think you encountered a raccoon.
Yeah, it's been our week for critters.
In a critter wars. And then we've got something new we're gonna test the waters on. Where do your building materials come from? This might be sort of an ongoing segment. You and I were talking about Mr. Rogers when we were kids. Those segments where he would go to a factory or something and show you how, tuna fish it was. Well, maybe not that.
Well,
how like foam is made or something, or how peanut butter is made.
Soda pop comes from.
Right.
Kind of
And
thing,
so we're going to do a little bit of that with our building materials. So, and we've got a lot of other good surprises coming this way. So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that.
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
All around us are unsung heroes. Shelby Farms in Memphis is one of the most beautiful parks in the country, thanks in large part to the unsung heroes on their landscaping team. Broadway musicals are exciting and entertaining, thanks in large part to the unsung heroes of the backstage crew. Can't argue with that. Max, the producer, is often the unsung hero for the listeners of Tool Talk Radio and Geek Tank Radio, thanks in large part to his judicious skill at knowing exactly when to push the mute button on the hosts of those shows.
Oh, yeah.
He's a lifesaver on that one, Allan.
I'm just glad you didn't say Javier Baez is the unsung hero.
All right, move along. Hit his mute button. And, of course, though Allan Gilbreth was understandably proud after completing construction of a 50-foot-tall working replica of Godzilla, outfitted with quadrupedal carbon fiber claws, a motion-activated flamethrower mouth jet, and a remote control swinging tail capable of launching even the heaviest of tardy delivery personnel off his property. And yet, Allan would be the first to admit that the unsung hero of the project was the audio engineer who installed the 750 decibel voice box into the monster, featuring that classic Godzilla roar, which Allan has now been broadcasting to his neighborhood for 20 minutes straight every morning at sunrise in memory of his late rooster, Sir Squawks-a-Lot. You are just the worst neighbor, man. How many windows have you had to replace?
I'm the one everybody knows.
Yeah. Oh, they know Allan. Yes, very often the most important work is taking place in areas that are easy to overlook. And this holds true in the area of home construction. So today we celebrate one of the unsung heroes of construction materials, a material with thousands of uses, including helping keep the foundation of our homes as solid as a rock. My friends, we give you gravel.
Yay!
Once again, Alan, I'm on a little streak here. It's a item that I basically don't have to do any research on. Who invented gravel? I don't know.
And hey, you kind of kept the music. You kind of kept the salute within music length.
I kept it within music length, and
somewhat.
Also, like we said, we always celebrate things that might be easy to overlook. And Alan, I was thinking about it. Gravel. I wonder what concrete would be like without reinforcing it with gravel.
It'd be cement.
It'd be or mortar, right? I mean, that's what it'd be.
It would
sand.
It would not be the wonderful substance we have now because the aggregate and rebar and other things we add to it is what gives it the durability and strength that we've come to rely on.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about it, Alan. There's so many uses for gravel too, and I was erosion, right? If you've got suppose you've got a hill or you've got a place in your yard or maybe a big embankment off the freeway. Well, they put rocks of varying sizes, and that's what helps keep it from washing.
It gives a little lockdown to it, and the actually in this particular area of the world, most of our gravel is the result of the Ice Age.
Oh, very interesting. Well, actually, put a pin in that, Alan, because as a matter of fact, not to tease too much, when we come back with our "Where do our building materials come from?" segment. That's what we're going to look at. We're going to look at gravel quarries and where the gravel actually comes from. And believe it or not, Alan has actually worked. I've picked up some things from a gravel quarry. I can't say I've ever worked at a gravel quarry, but
it's a very different set of engineering. I'll give it that.
Well, what's interesting too, Alan, when I sometimes I have to travel around the state, and there's a in Giles County, which is right at the bottom of the state, and it's sort of in the center. There's I pass through about 50 miles of, like every other mile, there's some gravel quarry out there, and there's a lot of activity, and it's really interesting, and I've been really kind of eager to learn more about how they operate, and so you're going to kind of help us unpack that
I'll give you a little taste of what it's like to be in there.
But absolutely, gravel, the unsung hero of today's salute. Well, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about where does gravel actually come from.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
The Emperor does not share your optimistic appraisal of the situation, and he is most displeased with your apparent lack of progress.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Well, it's not going to go well for that guy, Max. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. And really, it's a one-stop shop. You can check out links from all of our past shows. You can check out the must-have item of the week, which I've already posted, Allan. So I'm ahead of the game on that one, finally. And it's a great place to leave your comments and scroll through because we may be referencing one of the videos I posted a couple weeks ago with that wild electrical.
Yes.
I don't know if you call it an electrical fire, Allan. What is it when a branch gets barbecued from the inside out?
We're going to call that an electrical fire. We're going to stick with that for now.
And why you don't play games with, and why you do not pour water on an electrical fire,
and don't play with high tension wires.
No, just stay clear. And I feel like it's going to be maybe a safety thing today because who knows? Electrical fires are in people's minds, so it's a good time to talk about maybe the right way to address an electrical fire.
And as an adjunct to that, we will also discuss widowmakers.
Yeah, exactly. So stay tuned, folks. Hey, Allan, in a minute, we're going to get to our new segment, Where Do Our Building Materials Come From?, which today's topic is going to be, where does our gravel come from? Before we do that, I just want to remind people that it's very important to keep your HVAC system working properly. And, you don't play games with the HVAC system. Don't go to, what do they call it, Chuck on his truck.
Yeah.
You want a reputable company with a great culture. We often talk about the great culture of Brown Refrigeration, heating and air conditioning, because that starts from the top down. They when you call Brown Refrigeration, you're in good hands. You're going to be, the work's guaranteed. They're qualified, and actually they're a lot of fun to work with. And it's just a good experience all around. And that's one part of your home you want to make sure it gets done right, as well as your clean air. You want to keep the air clean. And of course, they're big into the smart home technology. They have apps for everything. They can adjust. You can adjust your HVAC from your phone these days. So they do it all at Brown Refrigeration, and they're just great, solid people. And of course, you can meet them at the Home Show of the Mid-South next weekend. Allan will be broadcasting live from there at the Agri Center. So in the meantime, if you need to get in touch with them, give them a call at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. All right, Allan, we were in our exhaustive show prep last night. Yeah, real exhaustive. What do we spend, like 10 minutes? No, we discuss things. We flesh out ideas.
Yeah,
so
we actually spent a little time on this.
But in our, of course, today's salute was a salute to gravel, which is a fundamental building. I don't even know how many uses there are for gravel. It's multi-use, and it's a natural product, right? And so we thought it would be interesting to discuss where it actually comes from, because we feel here at Tool Talk Radio, if you have a more global perspective on, or maybe you could even say a galactic perspective.
So we're about there, yes.
Because we talk about space science and how that connects to your home. If you have a better understanding of really how the world and the universe operate and where your things come from, I think it just makes you more informed as a homeowner, even down to where does gravel come from?
Well, the weird thing is anything from NASA programs, landing on the moon, to as simple as I need to hang a picture on the wall. There are ways of drawing lines that make all of these things related.
Yeah, exactly.
The different materials, how they're used, who developed them, where our modern hardware store came from. Mm-hmm. It's a very fascinating and twisted tale sometimes. Even gravel has kind of an interesting history.
Well, let's talk about it, sir.
One, if we're talking about the quote-unquote the gravel pit, which in this part of the country we kind of talk about.
I always think of Fred Flintstone with the whole thing.
Well, that's a quarry. That's a quarry.
Right.
And you can have a gravel quarry, but we're going to really kind of focus on the gravel pit, because what you're talking about is that pea-size bag of gravel, and it's not sharp little broken stones.
Oh, good point.
They're kind of smoothed over, right?
Yeah.
So when you go down to your big box store and you buy a big bag of gravel, or they'll call it sometimes it'll be called aggregate, which you're going to mix it with your concrete, bake cement,
right?
So here are these little stones, but they already look a little polished.
Yeah, they've been
rough-edged.
processed. They're not just something that came right out of the ground, I guess.
No, you are incorrect.
Oh, okay.
They were processed, but they did come out of the ground just like that.
Okay.
Oh, got interesting, huh?
I got it. Aliens zapped it with laser beams.
Yeah, okay.
Even stranger.
Ooh, go on.
All right, Allan. Well,
it got rubbed smooth by ice.
that's what we wanted to hear about. I knew you'd get there in the end. So. Well, Allan, okay, just so I'm clear, because when I picture different things. I picture, these quarries or whatever I'm driving by when I go through, southern Tennessee. I picture big, not bulldozers, but those big claw things, whatever they are,
right?
Breaking out pieces of rock, and then they pulverize them and make gravel. But you're saying that's not at all how it works, right?
No.
Okay, well, tell us how it works, man.
You're thinking about a limestone quarry,
right,
where we would get the other side of concrete, where you would get the limestone to be crushed and baked and become the emulsifier that makes concrete stick together.
Okay, gotcha.
So
yeah,
that's half of the picture. The other half over here with gravel, let's go back about 15, 20,000 years when there were really big sheets of ice coming south for a vacation. Well, if you think about it, you got a glacier coming, right?
Okay.
Do glaciers move?
Well, they do move really slowly,
what happens to the stuff under the glacier?
Good question.
It's moving across the top of something.
Oh, I see. Because we might look at a glacier as just sitting there, but it's actually
not.
Slowly.
It is a flowing frozen river that weighs hundreds of millions of pounds, and it is scouring the ground beneath it. So any rock feature, anything like that, is getting scrubbed. And as it moves forward, it pushes this aggregate in front of it. And wherever it stops or wherever it hits a low spot, it fills it in. So now, 20,000 years later, you just bought this lovely piece of farmland, and you're trying to clear the brush off of it and the trees so you can get your cows out there. And you'll have a spot where the grass just won't grow that well because the water won't stay. So you're going to get a geologist to come out, and he's going to tell you, well, congratulations, you got 40, 60, 80 feet deep of gravel that's underneath the soil, and now you have the quote-unquote the gravel pit.
Okay, is that where we get our gravel? They find
That's where a lot of gravel comes from.
That's what I was trying to figure out, because it sounds a lot different than what you had mentioned.
Now, my query is because when I think of things buried deep under the ground, I think of oil, and it makes me think, is gravel a non-renewable resource, or is it a renewable resource?
Well, that's a good question too. Yeah.
Well, all right, gravel is constantly being made every day. We can artificially make it. Like Joe said, we can make a big rock, crunch it down, tumble it, and make it into small rocks. However, for a gravel pit, here you're going to have all of the aspects of like a quarry, where we have to get down in there and remove the substance, clean it, process it, and get it ready for bagged up and usage.
Okay.
So there's a lot of bulldozer work, skiff loader work. There's a lot of engineering into being able to get into the area to do the work.
I'm picturing it getting sifted too, Alan, right? We think of those things
graded
with flour.
For size, yes.
You get something bigger than that, and it sifts out the bigger ones and
yes,
drops
exactly, because you have different purposes for each size aggregate.
Huh. It's interesting. Okay, we're going to wrap up the discussion when we come back, but it's kind of interesting. I didn't know that's how gravel was made. I thought we kind of made gravel.
We can, but we can also find it.
All right. Well, we hope you're finding this interesting here at the discussion here at Tool Talk Radio. If not, you can have your money back. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to wrap up our discussion about where does gravel come from. And then, Alan, we're going to talk about the science of making plywood.
Mm-hmm.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Call Poison Control if you're bit by a spider, but check that it's covered by your healthcare provider.
News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis.
It just occurred to me, Alan, why are poisonous spiders running around that guy's office? I don't know, man. It sounds like a problem. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbert from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out the must-have item of the week, which our buddy Jim Wilkin did. Alan, some of what's interesting about the world today of radio, people, like we say, listen from around the world and around the country. And a big shout-out, one of my childhood friends from Glen Ellen, Illinois, Jim Wilkin, is a regular listener to Tool Talk, so pretty cool.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim, for chiming in over there at Facebook and everything. So, Alan, I was sort of intrigued by this this notion of where gravel comes from. I know it sounds kind of fundamental, and maybe, I don't know, I didn't realize that there were gravel deposits. I thought that all these years, I thought gravel was not manufactured, but a process thing. I thought they took big rocks, crushed them, and made gravel. Because I know they have these tumbler things, right? That's what, if you want to smooth rocks out, you almost like a big barrel that they rotate, like a big cement, truck, and that's what smooths out. But you're saying not necessarily so. It comes
not necessarily so.
Nature provides.
So, for a lot of people, and we're gonna just kind of a little PSA out there for anybody that has any farmland or folks listening to us all throughout the Midwest. Anything in the Great Plains and this even goes down a little north of Jackson, Mississippi.
Okay.
Where at different times, different things happen to this area.
Right.
For instance, if you look at the geological map of the Mid-South, we're kind of a weird sandwich. And about 2,000 feet down is a huge sand layer.
Oh, interesting.
And that is where we get the beautiful benefit of this wonderful artesian water that we have.
That's what keeps the water so clean down there? Is that layer of sand?
There's a layer of sand down there, and then that probably got laid down when we were at the bottom of the ocean 75 million years ago. So as different layers have happened, you get different effects. And one thing that you do run into in the Mid-South periodically is a gravel deposit left over from an ice age.
Well, I was going to say, it sounds like the kind of thing where I could see, I don't know, they could probably look at a valley or look at a certain elevation and go, that might be a gravel deposit there, because based on, their deductions and everything, it might be a place where it would gather. But now you're making me think it's, we talk about it being a renewable resource, sort of, but I mean, if we did, I guess I'm starting to wonder about what Max had to say about that, because it's if you can't just dig up all the gravel, right? I mean, we need to.
Well,
we need some of that.
There's
in
still
there.
a lot more out there.
Okay,
but let's say you've bought a property and you get the survey, and it's kind of like, okay, well, this one area of my property doesn't act like the rest of it. You could have a geologist come out, and you might be the kind of lottery winner. And have a huge gravel deposit underground. And it's not going to be 1,000 feet underground. It's going to be like 10 feet underground.
Well, you're making me remember that movie, The Quiet Man, with John Wayne, when he goes to Ireland. Because Ireland seems like it would be a real gravelly place. And a lot of it's basically, it makes you think it's just built on a bunch of rock, because he kept digging. He was trying to plant things, and he just kept digging up big rocks and everything. So.
Well, if you go to Christian Brothers University, in one of their courtyards, they have a huge rock.
Okay.
And it's big significance because it was found during the building of the university, and it's very rare for such large rocks to be sitting there by themselves, because we didn't get the huge ice sheets over us that, let's say, Kansas did.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
So, it's big giant rock, and the big significant thing is the rock got here. So it could have been washed in with a flood. We've got a really big river right here that
or
also
some wise
makes
guy
gravel.
brought it over and left it. So, yeah.
No, then some wise ice pushed it down here. So there is a chance that, you could be looking at a river deposit. You could be looking at a stream bed. You could be looking at a gravel deposit left over from the Ice Age. And trust me, there are gravel companies that would love to get that phone call from you.
Yeah.
That says, hey, guys.
Come on over, clean up.
When you're done, I'd like a nice lake right there.
Well, because I was thinking of the Beverly Hillbillies. I'm like, I wonder how much gravel pays. Like, is it better to just sacrifice your farm to let them dig up the gravel, or money wise? I'm just wondering what the payday is there.
You know what? I would love to sit there and watch those people work all day long and not lift a finger.
All right,
but if you think about it, a moderate size commercial building. By the time you get the parking lot and everything involved, you're probably looking at about 15,000 tons of gravel. And gravel, just like every other substance out there, is graded from dust level to all different sizes, and each size has its own particular use.
Yeah, just like with sandpaper, same kind of thing. So.
Well, exactly, and sandpaper or sands. Now, for our listeners over in Arkansas, especially when you get around the Mark Tree area, they have sand deposits.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, welcome to things are more interesting than you thought.
Yeah.
You just don't know.
Who knows? Well, we're going to keep an eye on that, and the gravel situation, Max. We want the global gravel situation.
The latest development of something that's 1 million years old.
There you go. Well, hey, Allan, in a minute we're going to shift gears, and we're going to keep it sciencey, but we're going to get to a definitely a manufactured product when we talk about the science of making plywood. Before we get to that, though, I want to just mention that there's probably a guy out there that's been very busy the last couple weeks, and I'm assuming he is, based on the weather we had, and that's Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling.
He's busy, I promise.
He's always busy anyway. They do great work. The good thing about Big M Roofing and Remodeling is Jay Hill is a GAF Master Elite Installer. He's accredited with Good Housekeeping, 5-star reviews with the Better Business Bureau, highly qualified, and they install roofing systems. And the reason the system is important, because all of it works together. It's not just a matter of slapping shingles up there. It's
Right.
It creates an entire system. And then the beautiful part is there's a lifetime transferable warranty with your system. So when you sell your house, the new owner of the home gets that. And I'll tell you, that is a big selling point.
It is.
It's a huge deal. And the other great part is Jay Hill, which is one of the reasons he's probably so busy right now, is he is a former insurance agent. And so when there's a claim to be made, like maybe your house is going to be the roof is going to be replaced by your insurance company, you need to navigate that process.
Right.
And Jay knows exactly how to do that. That's his specialty. And of course, they do great remodeling work too, So they do it all. And Jay's just a lot of fun to work with. And you're in good, capable hands when you're working with Jay Hill at Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So just get in touch with them. You can call Jay directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. And another reminder, he will also be at the home show of the Mid-South.
Yes, he
February 25th through 27th next week. We'll be there. You can come say hello to us there at the Agri Center, and we hope you do. It's fun to meet people that listen to the show. So,
Oh, yes.
all right, Alan. So for science, go ahead, Max. Oh, he missed his
Hail
hotkeys. There you
science!
go. we this sounds this doesn't actually sound like a science segment, Alan. It sounds like we're continuing our Mr. Rogers type thing of how things are made, but there's actually a lot of science in how plywood is made. And the reason we're bringing this up, as we said, is because the more understanding you have of how things are made, usually the better you might even be able to select it when you go to your big box store and know which one to pick. So
that is really the topic these days.
Yeah.
Back in the day, quote unquote, plywood was basically kind of scrap leftover wood pressed and glued together. And you also had like your OSB and your plywood, and
what's OSB?
That is your stranded. That
Right.
is that oriented strand board. We used to call it chipboard.
Orphan boards.
Yeah, it looks like the little pieces of chips everywhere.
Right.
They were great products early on because you didn't waste any wood.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of times in areas where you didn't need whole wood.
Right.
Countertops and stuff like that.
You
Things
just
that weren't
need to
going to
fill
carry a
something
load.
in,
Right.
basically. Yeah.
Well, man, has technology changed on that. Because of the advances. Now, we talked about this in paint just a little bit.
Yeah.
What used to be latex paint is now a very complex, very chemically stable and wonderful product. When we come back, I'm going to tell you what happened to plywood.
I have a feeling we're going to, I have a prediction, Max. I predict we're also going to stray into the latest in adhesion technology.
Yes, we are.
How do you like that, Max? So, but there's also science and also cutting technology. It's not so easy to cut a piece of wood a 1/16 of an inch thick. Good luck.
Correct.
You go home and try that. Somebody go try to put your table saw in a 1/16 of an inch setting and see what happens. But anyway, that'll be interesting. So we're going to unpack that when we come back. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Is there anywhere in this town where we could buy a shrubbery?
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
Allan, when I've been traveling for days on horseback, the first thing I want to know, when I pull into the new village is where you can buy a shrubbery. I mean,
Roger the shrubber.
How about a quart of water or something? Anyway,
Newsflash, Allan stole all the shrubs.
Yeah, no kidding. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like and check out our must-have item of the week. Check out links to our past shows. If you miss any of Tool Talk Radio, you can check us out on Spotify. We really recommend that platform because it's really easy to use. And it's got all the shows posted there. Allan puts them up each week. And you can subscribe to the show if you want. And that way, every time we post a new episode, you get a little notification, which is good. And, of course, we hope you'll give us a 5-star rating and a review because that helps the algorithms. And it makes it kind of helps put Tool Talk Radio out into the world. More people will be able to listen, and we can kind of build the community, which is fun. We've been hearing from people from around the world, Alan, which is a lot of fun, man.
Talk to the Dominican Republic this week. We've got listeners as far away as India.
Yeah. Pretty cool, man.
It's very fascinating.
I wonder if they're intrigued by our gravel discussion, Alan. I mean, it's funny. I don't know how this happens. We look at the clock, Alan, and we're all of a sudden 45 minutes into the show, and we're like, okay, I'm looking at our checklist here. We've got some things to get to, so and we will get to them. But one of the things we were discussing before the break, Alan, is how plywood is made, and we feel like that's a worthy discussion, partly because it's interesting, but also when you go to the big box store, it might give you a better insight as to which plywood to choose, because there's racks and racks of plywood. And,
with different ratings.
If you know how they're made, you might better understand which one to pick up.
Well, like we said, back in the beginning of this was a great way of not wasting wood.
Isn't that what it was? They basically took every piece of wood and then they mixed glue together and
kind of pressed it. And, hey, look, you kind of got this light-duty wood.
Okay.
Well, then the next thing that came along is somebody went, if you lay these things so the grains cross,
right?
Don't lay them together. Makes them not match. Suddenly they realize that plies or layers of wood were infinitely stronger than the actual grained wood that we were using.
Yeah, you don't see karate students karate chopping plywood in half.
That's a great way to break an arm.
Yeah.
So for anybody that just thought of that idea, don't try it.
Right.
Plywood is now very mechanically designed. When they lay down these layers now, they are actually just off kilter with each other to get the maximum possible strength.
Yeah, because if you can imagine people crisscrossing, because in the old days, when they had to make like a tabletop or something, they would take slats of wood that maybe they're each 8 inches wide or something, and then they would alternate the grain. They'd flip one grain because grain will curl and it will bow and everything. So they'd flip it, then glue it together. But even still, Alan, like you said, all it takes is one separation in that grain, or some wise guy punches through there and it's going to crack. So plywood fixes that. They crisscross the grain. So
and then they began adding filaments. So you'll notice that there's like little pieces of looks like maybe nylon rope or yarn in there. So think about this like putting rebar in concrete.
That's what I thought of when you said that.
This is stranded strength and added to this. Now we're going to start talking the rosins.
Right.
Because different rosins react different ways. And when we say rosins, we're talking glues, epoxies, and basically what is my goal for this plywood? And is this going to be flooring? Well, in that case, I want really a lot of strength. Could even be waterproof.
Well, because some plywood goes on a roof of a house or something.
It's planking. Some of it can be marine quality. Some of it can be I use a lot of plywood that is very super thin, like 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
And I use it as basically wall protectors in a lot of commercial buildings.
Sure.
A lot of people go like, wow, this is beautiful wainscoting or whatever. And it's really designed to keep you from knocking a hole in my wall.
Yeah, because you work in these commercial buildings where people are slamming things into the wall,
Especially hallways with a lot of deliveries.
Right, yeah.
Hospitals and stuff like that where there's a lot of activity. So the reason you have so many different kinds of plywood when you go into your lumber yard or your big box store is that you need to do a little reading, decide the thickness that you need and the purpose that you need, because not all plywood is now created even.
Good point.
Everybody's now got a job.
Yeah.
And the actual creation of plywood, Joe, you play on a lathe. You like to use a lathe.
Sure, yeah.
All right, now picture a lathe capable of using a log a little over 8 feet long and probably about 6 to 8 feet in diameter.
Wow. Okay, now we're talking. Yeah.
And yeah. Oh yeah. And if you ever see a plywood lathe, this thing is absolutely terrifying.
Well, you're saying lathe, but you're talking about a blade that cuts through that.
Well, and then it has a long blade that they gradually grind into the wood about a 1/4 of an inch thick, and it begins cutting that giant log into. All right, when you're watching it and you're not really getting the scale, it looks like it's unrolling a roll of toilet paper.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting, and I mean the other thing,
absolutely amazing.
So you're saying it sort of circles it, and it's kind of shaving it in a way.
It actually shaves a huge tree trunk into one really long, thin sheet of veneer.
See, that's interesting to me, Alan, because to be honest, I wouldn't have thought it was made that way, because it makes sense that it is, but until you said that, because I'm like, okay, it strikes me as they must do this when the wood is still a little wet with sap and everything, because otherwise it would just be brittle and it would just break apart. So it would involve the right use of moisture. Then they've got to flatten it, which is its own challenge and everything. And then
they cross grain it, and then they choose what type of plywood it's going to become. And the actual press itself that creates plywood applies up to 7,500 pounds of pressure at 400 degrees.
That's interesting. So it's like an iron.
It is a massive
I never thought of that,
iron.
Alan. And then, of course, they have to, get the adhesive between it and everything, which is its own thing. But very interesting. So it's basically, it's like whittling on a bigger scale. Like you're shaving.
It's a giant wood sandwich.
That's interesting. So I never, that's a video I'd like to see. Mr. Rogers, I don't remember him showing us that.
Showing you one of those?
Yeah, that sounds cool.
If you ever see, I'm sure there's plenty of videos on YouTube someplace. We may find one and link it up. It is absolutely amazing to watch this happen.
All right, that's the next rabbit hole we're going to have to go down when we hit YouTube. So very interesting, Alan. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, let's jump into our must-have item of the week.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com. You can call, and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989, or go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like our loyal listener, Angel Lodgson, who's, if there was we talk about bedrock and foundational things for building. Well, she's one of the foundations of Tool Talk Radio. She's been with us since the beginning, Alan.
Oh, absolutely.
Actually, I bet you can meet Angel when you come to the home show of the Mid-South. I bet you she's going to be around the booth.
She and our other content, erstwhile content provider, Lori. You'd be able to meet both of them.
Okay, cool. So the home show of the Mid-South is coming up February 25th through to 27th at the Agri Center International, which is going to be a lot of fun. All of our sponsors will be there. Mm-hmm. Larry Brown's wife, I think, is going to be there.
Oh, there we go.
You won't be able to hear her on the radio, but I bet you can meet her in person, which will, and you judge for yourself. I bet after you do, there's going to be people lined up out the door. There's going to be people lined up in front of the Cumulus Studios, Alan, with pitchforks and torches demanding that we put Mrs. Brown on the air. That's my prediction. Anyway, all right, whatever. Don't roll your eyes, Max.
You also like the Cubs.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Hey, Alan, real quick, let's get, one thing I do want to mention, if you're just tuning in, one of the things that we discussed earlier, which to be honest, I'm never too old to learn. I mean, I didn't realize that the way they make plywood was basically they take giant logs of wood and they roll them and almost like a cheese slicer, Alan, right? They thinly slice the wood while it's wet, and then they press it with something kind of akin to a giant iron. Like you said, it's like 400 degrees. They press it, and so it's not only flattening the wood, it's almost, it's using those saps and everything in there to work as a kind of, it's a natural glue which keeps it flat, basically, or they're caramelizing the that's what it reminds me of. So it's very interesting how just these items we take for granted are made. You said if you go to the if you go to YouTube, you should Google Georgia Pacific videos. That the
Oh,
way
yeah. How they
those are
make
well
their-
produced.
Oh my gosh,
So
they're amazing.
Because otherwise, we'll spend the rest of the show talking about how how plywood's made. But Allan, let's get to our must-have item of the week because this one is going to involve a big "I told you so" from Allan. Although this one is not so much an "I told you so." But Allan, tell people what I'm holding up.
You are holding up a battery-powered high-intensity lamp.
You left one important word out of there, Allan. A rechargeable flashlight. That's what I'm. Well, okay, you call it a lamp. I'm calling it a flashlight, whatever. But it's rechargeable. It came with this kit that I bought, Allan. You finally convinced me to go into the battery powered.
Come to the dark side
thing.
of the force, Joe. We have batteries over here.
I'm still gonna keep. I'm never gonna get rid of Old Blue, my trusty drill that I've had for the last 20 years. However, I have bought a rechargeable. I got a little kit, Allan. It was only like $140.
Right.
I got a drill. I got a rechargeable flashlight. I got a screwdriver bit. I guess we call them a screw gun, whatever you want to say. And a Sawzall, battery powered, all for $140. It was a great value. But the flashlight really came in handy this week. I like the fact that it's rechargeable because I don't want to be buying a bunch of batteries over and over. I mean, I have a light on my phone, but that drains the battery quickly. So this week I used this. I had a tight area to work in, and it was badly lit. So the thing that's great about the rechargeable flashlight is that it's got a flat base, and it's also got kind of this handle area, and you can prop it in a lot of different positions.
Oh, yes.
And you just charge it up when you want to use it again. So
Well, it's not even that you charge it up. Just swap out the battery.
Well,
you've got I literally in my truck have a bag with about 6 charged batteries in it for all of the devices I'm going to use that day on the job.
Yeah.
So as I wear one out, I just pop the battery, grab the next one, pop that back on. And when I get back to the shop, I slap them all back on the chargers.
Yeah, you're definitely, I mean, I'm not there yet. I've got 2 batteries now, Allan, so I can keep them recharged and all that. But it's a great option because sometimes just that little bit of light, even if you're working outside, sometimes if you're in a shadow or whatever, that little bit of extra light, and it becomes critical too when you're looking at a tape measure and you can't quite see exactly what the measurement is. You put this baby in there.
Well, I'm also going to throw in, because of the way they're designed, you have the smallest model.
Yeah.
I have the one above that, which is actually a big LED plate. And if you throw that thing on its highest possible setting, you could light up a ball game.
Oh, yeah.
So when you are working in a small area, and like you said, whether it's inside or outside doesn't matter, because of the way they're designed and because of the length of the battery time on them, this job may take a couple of hours. That light is going to hang in there with you for that couple of hours.
And I'm thinking our buddy Bud and Ditch over there at Motormouth, they're going to want something like this because it is, I've seen those guys working on cars sometimes, and you have that one little dark spot that you can't get to. And so if you have this nice rechargeable battery or rechargeable flashlight, then it's, like you said, if it starts to poop out, you just get the new battery.
My mind didn't wander towards that. My mind wandered towards more how self-defense application. How can you blind your opponent and everything with mega flashlight?
Actually, this got some heft to it too, Allan. You can knock them out. Blind them and then knock them out. Very good, Max.
I have on more than one occasion forgotten to close my eyes before flipping the light on in a dark area.
Oh, yeah.
And I've zapped myself once or twice.
Yeah. So be careful. Use cautiously.
Judiciously, yes.
Anyway, our must-have item of the week, the rechargeable flashlight. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar, Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, Allan, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to tell you why I hate nail guns.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Gonna paint a wagon, gonna paint it good. We ain't bragging, we're gonna coat that wood.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I mean, like I said, singing on the job, I guess that's good for morale, but these guys are annoying after a while. After about 4 hours of paint songs, I'm ready to...
Yeah.
I got to admire their ability to make up rhymes for 4 hours.
I guess so. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us on the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989 and go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like, and you can see the must-have item of the week that we posted, and we already discussed the rechargeable flashlight. It's a good-looking flashlight, Allan. Big battery in there. I wonder, now, it might be a fun experiment to fully charge the battery, turn it on, and just see how long it goes for. You know, I didn't really try that, but it didn't lose dimness after working on it for hours. I'll tell you from
personal experience, it's right about 6 hours.
Okay, I believe you. So, Allan, so that's something good in the tool. This is something good to do with home improvement. And in a minute, we're going to talk about something bad to do with home improvement, or at least it's my own personal beef, I guess.
You've got that. I've been watching baseball again. Look in your eye.
Yeah, exactly. So, but before we get to that, I want to talk to you about somebody that knows what they're doing. Well, actually, a whole company, a whole culture, you could say. You know, and that's Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. Our friend Cindy Williams runs that franchise, and she's you talk about a go-getter. I have never seen anybody, not just her entire team. They really genuinely love what they do. And I guess I understand it, Allan, because people get really excited about their kitchens and bathrooms, as you well know. When you take somebody that's got cluttered cabinets and they're not taking advantage of the space, or they've got mobility issues, maybe they can't access things way in the back of their cabinets like they'd like to. Well, Shelf Genie of the Mid-South has these beautiful systems that they custom design. They come to your house. It's a free consultation, but it's pretty in-depth. They go over every square inch of your kitchen. They want you to have the best options. And there's all sorts of unique possibilities in your kitchen that you would never think of till you meet with you look at that dead corner in the, by the Lazy Susan, and they're like, okay, we can put 2 shelves back there. There's...
it's one of those things where it's looking at something very familiar with fresh eyes.
Absolutely.
What can we do better than what you have now?
Yeah, and that's what they do. They want everything to be better, and it's not just. It's almost like you're building a relationship, because they're not going to just disappear after the installation. The entire process is really comprehensive. They're a lot of fun to work with, and they're going to stand behind what they do. They're very proud of their systems, and they work great. And this company's been around for a long time, Allan. And it was founded by a carpenter, which I appreciate.
Which we both love.
Yeah, so get in touch with Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. You can call them directly at 901-422-8225. Or go to shelfgenie.com/Mid-South. And make sure you say that you heard it on Tool Talk Radio.
Oh, yes.
So, I don't know what bonuses you get. I think you do get some kind of a installation bonus, but I don't want to say. But also, it's good for us.
It's good for us. Yeah, makes people feel better.
Let's be honest. And like I said, you can meet Cindy Williams and her whole team at the Home Show of the Mid-South, February 25th through 27th. Allan, I guess we can say this, as long as there's no technical difficulties, we're going to be doing Tool Talk Radio live from the Home Show next week.
That is the current plan.
That's going to be interesting. Max, you're going to be back at the studios, right?
I'll be more behind the glass again.
Okay, so the elusive Max, you still no opportunity to meet Max, but you can say
probably for the best.
Yeah, I hope you'll come say hello to Allan and I. It's always fun to meet people that listen to the show, and maybe we'll meet. Maybe we can make a lot of new listeners, Allan. And we'll be doing. We'll have a few giveaways and some swag. There's reasons to come by. One thing about the Home Show of the Mid-South, you always get free swag.
There's stuff.
Yeah. So it's a great place to get ideas for your home and find out the latest technology and just have a lot of fun. So we'll be there. So, okay, Allan, shifting gears. This was not fun. This is one of my pet peeves.
I'm waiting. You
and
I don't look.
I don't want to be like Ron Swanson or a Sith Lord and make these pronouncements, these absolutist pronouncements. Let's say I'm not saying that nail guns are bad. Like, I don't know.
I use one every week.
Nail guns have their place. I would say misusing nail guns are bad. Let's just put it that way. So,
misuse of a nail gun can be fatal.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's not
Or
only that.
comedic.
Yeah.
Well, true.
So, Alan, my game is mostly I've really gravitated towards outdoor woodworking, which I really enjoy. For one thing, I haven't been sick in like 3 or 4 years because I'm always basically working outside.
Well, you're
and
alone. There's
not
nobody
around a lot of
you to
people.
give you anything.
Yeah,
so.
I get a lot of fresh air and all that, and but I just enjoy it anyway. It's just nice to be outside, and so I do a lot of patio covers and decks and things that involve exterior wood. Well, I'm working this week on a covered porch. Right? It's
okay.
Now I'm sort of modifying this thing. Somebody else built this, right?
Okay.
So if you can imagine, Alan, on the edge of the porch, you've got these pretty big, substantial beams wrapping the porch to provide stability. It's basically a horizontal beam. It's about 12 inches across. So what they did was it was a little rough, so they covered it with a 3/4 inch by it's a 1 by 12 we call it. It's a piece of pine.
Right.
And that type of wood, when it's outside, for one thing, it's pretty thin and it's prone to bowing. I mean, it's exposed to heat and rain and all sorts of stuff. So that type of wood really needs to be secured well because otherwise it's going to cup and the wood's going to bow, which it did. And this thing is not even that old, Alan. We call this a 30 years of stupid. I'm calling this is more like a 7 years of stupid. And so so basically I get there and I'm not going to just remove all of it. I need to make this thing look nice because, now I'm taking over on this job. So it's all the way across. This wood is cupped and it's warping and everything because what I find out is that it's got these tiny little nails holding it in. And when I almost hate calling them nails, Alan. Those they're meant for like
they used brad gun.
They used a brad gun. These are like the things that if you're putting interior trim work, it's more decorative.
Those are brads.
On
those
the inside,
are not nails.
Those work fine because they're just you don't want to split the trim.
Right.
They're not meant to hold
the
something.
Proper tool for the proper job.
They even have this waxy, slick kind of finish, so they're just going to slide right out. Well, they just basically slap the stuff up with that.
Oh, no.
And it really offended my sensibilities, Alan. I'm like, okay, it's up. It probably looked great for the first month or so. But then when the heat comes, when the humidity comes, and now so basically what I'm having to do now, Alan, is I'm having to take these little thin head screws. I'm a big fan of those.
Right.
And they're kind of like deck screws and things like that. So I'm having to gently put screws in, and it's slow. You have to work kind of slow because if you just torque it in there, it's going to split the wood. Yep. So you're almost kind of like finessing it in there and securing it. And now I'm
convincing it to do what you want.
Yeah.
Right. Slowly.
And now I'm having to fill in the holes and all this, which none of this should have been necessary, but they didn't use the right.
No.
Even if you're going to use like exterior finish nails, they have that little texture to it or something. But I don't know, Alan. It really irked me. I think nail guns are the go-to tool for too many people, and if you're going to use a nail gun, at least use the right nails. Well, don't just, So.
Well, like anything else, like the blade in your circle saw to the blade in your Sawzall to the type of fastener that you're using, the proper tool for the proper job makes drastic amount of difference.
Right.
Because if you think about it, those little brads just don't have the cross strength to stand up to, and once again, water is the enemy.
That's all it takes,
as the
a little
humidity is getting to that board, it is going to adapt. It's going to move if it can.
Yeah.
And a 1 by 12 versus a brad, you don't have much of a fight.
No, it's bad. And I want to say, and I don't want to say this to brag, it's more of a principle of how I like to build things. I think this was drilled into me by my shop teacher. You make something with the sense that if you build something, it should be around 100 years from now. I had occasion to visit. There was a deck that I built. It was a multi-level deck back in 1997. It was actually one of my first decks that I built here in the Mid-South. And I had last year I had a chance to go visit the homeowners, and that deck is still standing, Alan. In fact, the deck boards, none of them were rotted. It needed to be swept. There were some leaves on there. I'm like, this deck was 25 years old, and it's still kicking because I used I did,
all the
right tools,
all the proper stuff,
screws, not nails, and all that. So that's the way I like to build, and maybe it's just made me kind of an elitist, and I don't know. I think I'm better than everybody else, but it bugs me. So if you're going to use a nail gun, just at least use the right nails. How's that?
I'm of the opinion if I have to work behind myself, I want to be cussing me for building it right.
That's an interesting quote, Alan. Okay. It sounds, anyway.
It is a true story.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, you're listening to Tool Talk Radio. I got that off my chest. I feel better, Alan.
Good.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about my close encounter with a squirrel.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I'm describing a person. Not something complicated like a wooden sailing ship or proper dovetail technique.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
All right, I'm kind of with him on there, Alan. A proper dovetailing technique is
not going to argue. Not going to argue.
Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out our must-have item of the week. Scroll down a little and check out that video I posted a couple weeks ago with the electrical fire that took place on the wires outside of my home, because we're going to discuss that in a minute, Alan.
Yes.
We're circling back to that discussion because I think it behooves us to do so.
Yeah.
And in a minute, I don't want to make a bigger deal out of this than we have to, but in our Critter Wars, I had a close encounter with a squirrel, and mostly I'm just interested in the physics of what happened, Alan. So.
Okay, I'm ready.
Before we get to that, though, I just want to remind people that if you want to remodel your kitchen or bathroom, that is something you do not play games with. That is something you want to do it correctly, because it could either be a wonderful experience or it could be a expensive, costly, and distressing experience. Yes. Let's put it that way. So it's a very, remodeling the kitchen is something that you need to think through. And nobody thinks it through better than our buddies at Tri-State Interiors. Mike Serafolian and his team have a operating principle. The first principle is they want the craftsmanship to be the best it can be. They do. The second is that they want to keep their overhead low so that you're not paying for things down. The difference, if you get 4 or 5 quotes to remodel your kitchen, you're going to be amazed. It's going to vary. It's going to be tens of thousands of dollars different sometimes.
Drastically different.
Yeah. So he keeps the overhead low, and then, of course, they create, in the design process, they create these beautiful 3D renderings where you more or less are using a computer and you design the whole kitchen, you get it the way you would like, and then you download it on your phone or your computer, and you can modify it. You can look at it. You can show it to your friends. You get the design exactly the way you want it, and then once you do, then they don't begin any construction until they've ordered every single piece of material that they're going to need, so that they can go from one step to the next very smoothly. Right. And of course, he as much as possible likes to source locally or regionally. Most of the materials and most of the cabinets, everything is going to come from within probably a couple of hours of here, or at least within Tennessee. So they do great work. You're going to be very satisfied with everything they do. And if you can spell Mike's last name, good luck to you. Call Mike Serafolian at 901-409-1333 or go to tristateinteriorsllc.com. Hey, Allan.
And I bet you get to meet him at the home show, too.
Oh, good point. Yep. Mike will have his own booth.
He is a lot of fun.
And he's fun. He's a historian. Ask him historical facts. That was what he majored in college. So it just goes to show, you're a history major in college, and then you wind up becoming a kitchen remodeler.
That's okay. That's okay. He and I have some great conversations.
I was a Japanese major in college, and now I'm working with you guys on radio.
Go figure. You just never know.
Fallen.
Yeah. Well, Allan, this isn't a big deal. This is more just of a curiosity. So I told you about this patio cover I've been working on. Well, there was one of the defects. Boy, I'm not naming names, so I guess I'm not. Right. But one of the problems with this, among others, I told you that my problems with the nail gun. Well, they have this. So there's a fireplace, folks. If you can picture this, a patio cover with the fireplace in the corner, right?
Okay.
Well, the way it was designed, there's a little area behind the fireplace that's exposed, basically. It's about 6 inches tall, and it's like a platform that is designed perfectly for a squirrel to go in there and which they did. They you can even see, Alan. There's about a 2-inch gap between the fireplace and the ceiling, and it's just why didn't they close that up?
It's just perfect, right?
And so you could see the chew marks. So I knew there were squirrels in there. I knew we were going to have to address this at some point. Well, I was putting up a beam next to the fireplace, and I was banging away, and it was pretty loud because I wanted the beam to get in there pretty tight. So I made it I made it where actually I had to kind of force it in a little so that way it would stay snug. Well, there was apparently a squirrel that didn't like this. It was about 2 feet from my head, and all of a sudden, it was literally just one of those blurs, Alan. I didn't see it. I thought it was a bird. It was so fast, and it made this horizontal jump of about 30 feet to the branch below. But, Alan, it only had about 6 inches running room. Like, it's not like it could take a running leap and jump onto this. So I was just more curious, do squirrels have that kind of jumping ability? I mean, this was impressive. It was fast, and
they have very flexible spines. Matter of fact, a squirrel can actually double up, and when it explodes forward, it's kind of like loading a spring. When you squish it all the way down and you let go and the spring goes flying, that is pretty much how a squirrel's body works.
They're pretty resilient creatures. If they ever can organize, they're gonna take over. Right?
We're in such trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess my point with all of this is just don't ever take a squirrel for granted, because I was picturing, I can picture them climbing trees. I picture them making a jump. I've seen squirrels fall 20 feet off of a tree and land on the ground and just run off like it didn't faze them. Never saw the horizontal leap like this.
Oh yes.
This is like the Michael Jordan of squirrels. So
and never attempt to pick one up. Yeah.
Yeah, stay clear.
It's
folks.
like a furry weed eater. Don't grab that thing.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, that was my squirrel encounter. This is one of the few times I wish I had a GoPro attached to my head, because that would have been the footage was great, but
the gray flashes went right across your head.
Yeah. So all right, well, that was it. I didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it, but it was something that happened on the job, and I thought it was worth mentioning. So, well, Alan, so
they are everywhere, and the other thing I'm going to throw in, this time of year they're starting to look for nests. So they're going to be around your house.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe, too, the other lesson I learned out of this is that if you're trying to drive the squirrels out of the wall or something, maybe just bang against it. Sounds like they don't like the noise.
They don't like the noise. They like peace and quiet.
Yeah. Okay. Alan, let's shift gears. This is something that we brought up because if you go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, you will see the video that I posted where a limb fell on a power line out in front of our house, and it was arcing, and it was pretty exciting, honestly, and it melted the wire, and it looked like something out of Star Wars with the laser and all that. But anyway, I brought the piece of wood into I took it into my garage because this is a souvenir I'm keeping forever, right, Alan? So, but when I observed this, Alan, there was 2 pieces. It was almost like a V shape. One side of the branch was hollowed out from the middle. It had been burned out from the middle. The other had been burned from the outside, which I found significant. But the weirdest part of all of it, Alan, is there was no smell of burning wood. Like, if you light a piece of wood on fire and you set it aside, it's going to smell for weeks probably at a time. So I guess we were going to talk about electricity being a very weird thing, and also why electrical fires are nothing to play games with, because think of what if that beam was in my house,
Oh, yeah.
And I wanted to begin this segment by a quote from Frankenstein. This was the scene where Victor Frankenstein was first inspired to make his creature. Yeah. He said, "As I stood at the door on a sudden, I beheld a steam of fire issuing from an old and beautiful oak which stood about 20 yards from our house. And as soon as the dazzling lights vanished, the oak had disappeared. It was not splintered by the shock, but entirely reduced to thin ribbons of wood. I have never beheld anything so utterly destroyed."
Wow. Right.
Welcome.
Very well put.
Welcome to electricity.
Yeah, because if wood, for one thing, we hope we made this clear. Everybody should have a fire extinguisher with the foam because if you have an electrical fire, for one thing, it's probably going to travel way faster than you can react to. But do not put water on it.
Right.
That is absolutely critical.
That is your ABC rated fire extinguisher.
Yeah. So a few questions emerge, Alan. It's like, for one thing, why did one side of the branch hollow out and why did the other burn from the outside?
Well,
so, just
moisture,
lots of questions here.
Let's go with moisture.
Okay.
Of anything moist is a conductor.
Mm-hmm.
So when the branch arced between the two, the moisture inside the branch was allowing the electrons to connect and was creating the arc.
Okay, it's funny you say that, Alan, because the branch, I told you, was sort of a V shape, and it was hanging over the wire. The thinner branch burned from the outside. The thicker branch burned from the inside. So it's holding moisture. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and also the thicker branch was probably the one actually completing the arc.
Okay, gotcha.
So when it's like a short circuit. So you have two wires, and you're going to introduce something in between, which is going to bridge between the two of them. Well, that is going to produce the surge of electrons that is going to blast through whatever will conduct the electrons.
Right.
So in this case, the moisture inside the branch being the most conductive is where most of the heat and the destruction happened. Now, the piece that's still connected to it that wasn't part of the arc was getting the heat generated by the other, so it burned conventionally.
But we say it burned, but there's no burning wood smell, which is something I'm also intrigued by.
So intensely, because of the amount of energy being applied, it's kind of like a bag of charcoal.
Okay.
Charcoal was created under pressure and heat, and doesn't stink.
All right, we're going to unpack this more. Like electrical fires, we hate to close on a downer, but hey, this is our safety segment.
Well, safety.
You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here on News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break and then talk more about how electricity is going to burn your house down.
Oh, boy.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
I assure you, Lord Vader, my men are working as fast as they can.
Perhaps I can find new ways to motivate them.
News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
Yeah, a little force lightning will motivate a guy, right?
Just send him to the Emperor. He'll take care of him.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our buddy Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989 and go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. It's really a great place to go. It's we what we want to hear is we want to hear your home improvement stories and adventures. Send us pictures, send us video if it's tasteful. Tasteful and interesting. We'll put it up.
And safe.
And I can't say that the video I posted a couple weeks ago was safe, Allan, but it's exciting, and it's something we're kind of discussing today with electrical fires, and we're going to dive back into that in a minute. But Allan, one thing that we hope is tasteful and safe is all the content over at darkoakmedia.com. So
probably not.
Yeah, no kidding. So what's going on over there this week, Allan?
We have a brand new episode of It Came from the International Market, starring Angel Lodgen, Scott J. Carroll, and John Anderson from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, very nice.
So they
you roped him in, huh?
Yeah,
okay.
They got to get tortured with a few interesting tidbits. So feel free to pop over to darkoakmedia.com and click on It Came from the International Market and see what interesting things the evil overlord producer fed to his intrepid guest.
Yeah, and don't be coy. We know who the evil, intrepid producer is. So, yeah. Anyway, okay, yeah, check it out. And and I'm guessing a few of that gang is probably going to be at the home show of the Mid-South next week, tagging along with what we've got going on. So, and if you're just tuning in, we want to remind you, next week at the Agri Center, February 25th through 27th, we'll be Tool Talk Radio. We'll have our booth set up, the 98.9 Roar booth. Pretty cool. We'll have swag. All of our sponsors will be there, and they'll have swag.
Oh yes,
probably a lot of fun giveaways. And we're as long as there's no technical challenges, we'll be broadcasting live, and that'll be a lot of fun.
That's gonna be exciting.
So we'll see. And I would assume we're gonna get some of our sponsors on the air, and it should be a lot of fun. You won't be able to meet Max though, because Max will be here at the station, making sure everything goes.
And we'll be happy to chat up our sister shows. So.
Oh yeah, we'll be Geek Tank Radio, Motormouth Radio.
Motormouth's Geek Tank Radio. It came. It was on the news and the Cooking Today show. Will all be represented.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Well, Allan, one thing that's not fun. Let's shift gears. And actually, this is sort of a full circle discussion. Sometimes when things happen, it's a good time to remind us of things like, who was thinking about weatherheads at your house? Who was thinking about, down power lines? But of course, after the storms recently, that's what we're thinking about. Well, I started thinking about electrical fires because I had one right in front of my house. And I got, in fact, it got my wife going down the rabbit hole doing a little research on electrical fires. And she's, very concerned now about, squirrels, things that can damage your wiring or things that can cause electrical fires in your home. And so I feel like we should have that discussion before we get out of here.
And of course, when I think of all this stuff, I just hear the 1812 Overture playing in my mind and everything. And so in honor of that, I'm going to try playing a little bit of 1812 Overture in the background of this discussion.
All right, well, good for you, Matt. Max hears the 1812 Overture when he goes through the car wash.
Well, he's true. All right, well,
he's easily intrigued. But Allan, let's talk about that, because an electrical fire is unlike any other kind of fire. And it might start in your electrical box and wind up 50 feet away in your kitchen, right? I mean, that's...
Well, let's stick with lightning for just a minute.
Okay.
Lightning is going to do whatever lightning wants to do, just fundamentally. And lightning is part of this. We just had a big storm yesterday.
Right.
So little lightning, little wind. We just had a big ice storm back on February 3rd. So right now, a lot of the things happening are exactly what happened at your house, where limbs broken off, snapped, or blown by the wind have fallen on power lines. And when they cross the lines, it's kind of like Ghostbusters. You don't want to cross the streams.
Right. You're closing you said what, 16,000 volts are traveling through that stuff?
You are creating a short circuit into a pair of wires that may be carrying as much as 16,000 volts.
Right.
That is a lot of power, y'all.
Well, outside is one thing. That's dangerous, but what about the inside out? Because now that I'm thinking, okay, let's suppose a squirrel gets into your walls, which they can do very easily.
And they do.
And they start chewing up a wire, and it's where is that current, where is everything traveling? Let's just suppose you've got an exposed wire and now maybe moisture is introduced and it's...
Well, the worst part is it's now frayed.
Right.
And all right, let's talk about our hapless little gray friends. According to our buddies right here at Entergy, I live right next to the state line here, so I deal with energy all the time.
Yeah.
They had basically 22,000 animal-induced outages in 2020.
22,000.
22,000.
Wow.
Raccoons were responsible for about 600 of them.
Well, what are they so attracted to? Is it just, do they sense an electrical
they're
current?
making a nest. They're trying to dig into your house. So like around your chimney or possibly where your electrical connection comes into your house, you got a raccoon up there pulling and tugging and yanking on stuff. And if he crosses the wires, he can get zapped.
Now that you mention it, Allan, now I do see the scenario. So you're a squirrel, you're inside a wall, and you're climbing down, and there's that cable, there's that wire that's running through the wall, and it's blocking your path. You're trying to get down there and make a nest.
Right.
Well, you're just going to chew through it. And it probably is like chewing through chewing gum for them. Right?
And with those teeth, when he crosses, once again, when he crosses the streams, he now becomes the short circuit. Zap.
What does that look like?
It's not pretty. It's not pretty.
I think I saw a SpongeBob episode with what happens to you with that. So,
according to Entergy, 15,000 outages were caused by squirrels.
Okay. Well, Allan, I don't want to run out of time. Before...
I mean, that's a lot of chewing.
Okay, we're doing the danger thing. What is the proper way to deal with an electrical fire? For one thing, my thought was, just don't assume it's just over there. It can be traveling through wires. I would just say, imagine almost a web around yours, where electricity is flying everywhere. For one thing, I almost think this is just get out of the house, right?
Yep. Well,
you're not going to put it out with...
The first thing about electrical fire is make sure that your breaker box is in good working order.
Okay.
Because if something shorts out, your breaker, if it exceeds the 15 amps, should throw.
Okay. Hopefully it does. Right.
Well, again, that's why you want to make sure, especially if you're purchasing an older home, you want to have an electrician look at the breaker box and make sure everything's in good working order.
Okay.
You don't want to find out somebody did something stupid back there and bypass something.
Of course.
If you have a socket within 6 feet of water, I strongly suggest you have a GF or GFI socket put in.
Okay.
Because those have their own little breaker in the socket themselves.
Oh,
so if something were to
true,
happen,
it
would. So if you had it in the bathroom and you dropped something, it got wet, it began shorting out, it would throw that little breaker right there and not even wait on the main breaker back in the house.
So in theory, we shouldn't have these horrendous electrical fires. I mean, if everything's working properly. But
if everything's working properly, we should be in good shape. However, let's say we've got a frayed lamp cord or bad electrical appliance, a vacuum cleaner or something like that.
Okay.
And I pick on vacuum cleaners because they have belts and they also deal with hair and dust. And all of this will burn pretty well if you got a motor not doing well.
And a motor can overheat if it's gummed up and everything.
It gets all gummed up and it overheats and you smell something burning and nobody bothers to check what that is for a few seconds.
Yeah.
Boom. Now you can have a mechanical fire.
Okay.
The biggest thing they tell you to do, if possible, unplug the power source. Remove the power source if you can. If you can't, this is where an ABC rated fire extinguisher becomes so important, because an ABC rated, and this is a very common, this is not an uncommon, a very common type of fire extinguisher, will put out debris, electricity, and of a flammable liquid.
It's like a powder, right?
It's a foamy powder.
Okay.
It's going to get this stuff everywhere. If you've ever seen a comedy movie and they fire off the fire extinguisher,
oh yeah, it makes a mess.
That's really kind of what it looks like. It's a big foamy white powdery stuff. But whatever you're aiming it at, and you should always go for the base of the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever it looks like it's starting, you want to get in there and get that. And it's going to make a mess. But you didn't burn down your house, you didn't destroy your property, and, maybe you need some new rugs, and maybe you need to paint the ceiling where soot got. But electrical devices, this is why it's so important not to plug 57 things into a single outlet.
Right.
This is why you should always get rid of any type of frayed cords.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got pets back behind things, under the desk. You need to check that stuff periodically and make sure cute little Fifi hasn't been chewing on something under there.
And also, don't run a bunch of wires under a rug because, wires sometimes radiate heat.
Right.
And it's a twofold thing, right, Alan? It's going to not only possibly light the rug on fire, but it's also going to melt the wire over time because it's not breathing. It's not.
Well, you're probably also walking on it and breaking down the insulation and fraying it, thus I would say expediting burning down your house.
Yeah. Boy, we're full of sunshine and daisies today, aren't we, Alan? But no, I feel like it's important. But I am a little bit more at ease that you said as long as your breakers are working correctly, because my wife, she was researching things where, man, this thing's going to travel through your house. It's going to, I guess in the worst case scenario,
that's why we have a modern breaker box.
Right.
The breaker box is designed to trip at 15 to 20 amps, which is a good level. It's enough for you to get your work done in the house, but it's not enough to, cause harm. But that's why you have a breaker box.
Okay, cool. Well, good stuff, Alan. And I do feel a little bit better, but I think outside all bets are off, because when you're dealing with a 16,000 volts, just get clear of that.
Never play with those wires.
And actually, when those wires snap, they're going to fly in all directions. So just get away. Don't do what I did. Don't stand there with your video recorder. Although I was a pretty safe distance off, but still, if that thing took the wrong turn, it would have taken me out, man. So anyway, wow, Alan, another episode of Tool Talk Radio is in the can, and the clock's telling us it's time to go. So on behalf of my buddy Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.